Yo, what is up, guys? Dale Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. A quick preview and prediction for Tevin Farmer versus Joseph Diaz. This fight goes down on the 30th of January, and it is for Tevin Farmer's IBF Super Featherweight title. I've got to say, I think this is a pretty good fight, and in my opinion, this is Tevin Farmer's best opponent since becoming a world champion. I mean, since Farmer's won that belt against Billy Dibb, the fighters who he's defended against haven't been all that great, if I'm being honest. You know, the likes of John O'Carroll, Francesco Fonseca, James Tennyson, people like that. These guys are domestic and European level fighters. Nothing wrong with that, they're not bad fighters, but as a world champion, Tevin Farmer hasn't fought world level fighters, and in my opinion, Joseph Diaz represents a big step up from Tevin Farmer's previous competition. I mean, Joseph Diaz, he fought for a world title against Gary Russell Jr. He lost that fight, but, he gave a really good account of himself. He's beaten guys like Andrew Cancio, Jason Velez, and people like that. So he's fought at a pretty good level, and in my opinion, he's a cut above the level of competition Farmer's been fighting to date. So this certainly represents a step up, and I think it's a good fight. Let's briefly run through the tale of the tape. This fight is a battle of southpaws. Both fighters are southpaws. We will start with the champion, Tevin Farmer. He has a record of 30 wins, 4 defeats and 1 draw. Only 6 of those 30 wins coming by way of knockout. Joseph Diaz has a record of 30 wins, 1 defeat, 0 draws. 15 of those 30 wins coming by way of knockout. Tevin Farmer, he is listed as 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Joseph Diaz is listed as 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. So both guys are the same height, but Tevin Farmer has a 3-inch reach advantage. Is that going to play a part in this fight? Will that be a factor? I think potentially, especially given how Tevin Farmer fights. I think that could be a factor in this fight. Anyway, let's get onto the styles. As we know, Tevin Farmer, he is the slickster out of the two. Tevin Farmer likes to get behind that jab and sort of slip and slide, bend at the waist, make his opponents miss, and just try and be a really awkward fighter. Tevin Farmer's unorthodox movement does make him a difficult proposition for a fair few fighters in that division. It's not that Tevin Farmer is actually technically great. I don't think he is, There are certain aspects of Tevin Farmer's game that need a lot of improvements, mainly his punch technique. A lot of his punch technique is quite sloppy, to be honest. A lot of slaps, a lot of cuffs, things like that. Tevin Farmer is a fighter who kind of wings it, His movement is unorthodox, like I said. His head movement, his upper body movement. And for some fighters, that style can be really hard to come to grips with. And I think Joseph Diaz potentially could be one of those fighters. Joseph Diaz himself, he can box, He's got a decent 1-2 behind that southpaw stance. He's got a nice jab. He can apply pressure. He's a guy who does the basics well without really exceeding in one particular area. He's one of those solid, well-rounded fighters. He's a good contender. And, he'll certainly give Tevin Farmer some good work. I think in this fight, Joseph Diaz needs to be the aggressive fighter, he needs to apply pressure, and he needs to make it a rough and tough fight for Tevin Farmer. I don't think he should try and box with Tevin Farmer. Not that I think Tevin Farmer is some great master boxer, he's really not. But, that style, fighting at his pace, gives Tevin Farmer a much better chance. We saw John O'Carroll fight Tevin Farmer, and John O'Carroll applied some good pressure, and he won some rounds against Tevin Farmer. Don't get it twisted, John O'Carroll is a solid fighter, but Joseph Diaz is a level above. If he can take what John O'Carroll did and, add to that with more power, more aggression, better technique, then I think he's got a really good chance in this fight, because at times John O'Carroll was outworking Tevin Farmer. He really was. And like I say, if Joseph Diaz can follow a similar game plan, I think he's got a chance in this fight, I really do. But he'll need to really be on it from round 1 to round 12, He needs to make it a rough, tough fight, because I'm not sure Tevin Farmer can really cope with that well over 12 rounds. We go back earlier on in Tevin Farmer's career, he fought a guy called Kenichi Ogawa, and he actually lost that fight, which got overturned due to a failed drug test. But in that fight, I felt Tevin Farmer kind of struggled with the steady pressure that Ogawa was applying, and Ogawa really wasn't doing anything special. It's not like he was closing the ring off exceptionally quickly. It's not like he was a massive puncher or anything like that, but still, Tevin Farmer had some issues with that pressure. So if Joseph Diaz can take it up a level from Ogawa and John O'Carroll, he's really got a good chance in this fight. But is Joseph Diaz really a natural pressure fighter? Is he a world-class pressure fighter? Probably not. I certainly think he can apply better pressure than John O'Carroll. Will that be enough to win this fight? I'm not so sure. One thing he needs to avoid is lulls in inactivity in this fight. He can't afford to let Tevin Farmer steal rounds behind that jab, behind that flashy movement, because, Tevin Farmer has that ability to do that. If a round is close and not much is happening, Tevin Farmer will start flicking that jab, he'll throw a little flurry here and there, and he can win the round. One thing I will say about Tevin Farmer, he does have a pretty good understanding of where he stands in a round, and what I mean by that is, if the round is close, Tevin Farmer is the type of fighter who will start to flurry, or he'll throw like a flurry at the end of a round to seal the round. He knows when rounds are close, and he knows when he needs to work. He's quite a smart fighter in that sense. So if you see close rounds, I expect Tevin Farmer to nick the majority of these rounds. I think he's more of an intelligent fighter than Joseph Diaz in that sense. So Joseph Diaz needs to avoid those type of rounds where it's close, in my opinion. He needs to win rounds big, and he needs to apply steady pressure throughout. And as for Tevin Farmer, I still would like to see some improvements from him. As you can tell from his record, he's really not a puncher, and that is mainly down to, first and foremost, poor punch technique, but also he's quite negative. In this fight, I would like to see him be a bit more positive, try and get Joseph Diaz's respect with some nice hard shots, nice counter shots. He does have quick reactions, he can throw counters, but he doesn't really set his feet enough to do so, and that's something I would like to see in this fight. I want to see Tevin Farmer be a bit more aggressive. I mean, a lot of people are quite high on Tevin Farmer. I'm not so much, but, I want to see a bit more still. Do you know what I mean? I want to see a bit more from Tevin Farmer in this fight. Nevertheless, it's a good fight. I think it's a pretty good style clash, and like I say, I certainly believe that it's a big step up from Tevin Farmer's previous competition. So I like this fight, but my official prediction would be Tevin Farmer wins a close points decision. I think this fight will be close. I believe it will be competitive, but I think Tevin Farmer might nick it. Maybe even controversial, wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, solid fight. One I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I'm picking Tevin Farmer on points in this one. Share your predictions below. Are you picking Joseph Diaz or Tevin Farmer? Share your predictions below. Also, I have done a prediction for Akhmadaliev versus Danny Roman. That is now on my channel, so if you're interested, I'd appreciate it if you could check that video out. And also, if you could smash the like on this video, it would be much appreciated. And lastly, I'm not sure whether I'm going to make a preview for the Demetrius Andrade-Luke Keeler fight, to be honest. I'm certainly not making a prediction because we all know what's going to happen in that fight. But yeah, you might get a video on that fight, you might not. But regardless, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Peace.